Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to give 10 to 15 seconds to let folks keep coming in here. Thanks from wherever you are at. Feel free to chat, say hi, say where you're from if you'd like in the chat section. I'll mention this again in a second, but you're welcome to answer questions throughout the webinar. So please use the Q&A section if you'd like to do that. And I hope you guys enjoy. So to kick things off, I just want to make sure we all know why we're here. This is going to be a session focused on your web presence, and specifically your web presence when it comes to your website and your social media and how the two interact. I am Seth Jacobs. I'm a senior project manager here at Indie Solutions. With me is Wasim, who's a co-founder at Indie We both come from IT background or technology backgrounds. We are both very interested in the nonprofit world. We've worked for the nonprofit space for most of our careers. And that's why we both work at Indie Indie is a web development firm that works exclusively with nonprofits to create and develop websites and social media presences and the whole 9 yards. So welcome. As we get started, I just want to kick us off with a brief survey here just to give a little bit more context to who you all are and what your familiarity or knowledge is here. So if we can kick off that survey, we'll give everybody about 60 seconds to take it.
All right, I'm gonna.
All right, so yeah, what we're basically asking here is how many times, how often, or how busy is your site traffic? Are you posting every day? Are you creating articles every day? How often are you sharing things on social media? So if you could just answer those two questions real quick, we'll share the results. And if we can share, publish those.
We have 10 seconds more.
All right.
All right.
All right, so great. It looks like we have some pretty active social media accounts here, which is awesome, and less active websites, which is also pretty par for the course. So that's great. There's obviously room within this whole range of, very rarely posting on social media to posting all the time and barely posting on your website and posting all the time. So we'll be sure to cover the whole range there. What we're going to be doing today is covering, again, that relationship between your website and your social media. We're going to dive into the user journey and what that is a little bit deeper. We'll talk about Google Analytics, which is a whole topic in itself. We're going to talk about moderating content and different opportunities or methods to do that. And then we'll dive in a little bit deeper to sharing social media or allowing others to share via social media content from your site. We will have questions at the end, a space for questions at the end, but again, feel free to use that Q&A section throughout the webinar to answer any questions, and we'll cover them as they come up. Real quick, I did just want to give a little plug here. As in addition to my role at Indie I'm also a co-founder of the Sunset Run for Refugees. This is its 5th year, and it's a sunset run, 5K and candlelight vigil in support of refugees. We actually raise money directly for the refugee cause. Our first deadline is on Monday to order shirts if you're interested. But the reason I mention it is because I actually have managed their website, our website, and the social media since the event's inception for the last 5 years. So definitely relevant to the topic at hand. A couple things that I just want to make sure that we're thinking about throughout the webinar are these kind of key questions. The first question being, how can we make sure that our users are experiencing the website the way that we want? How can we verify or ensure that the website is being used as we are expecting? And what is the ideal relationship between our website and our social media? How do the two play off of each other instead of maybe competing sometimes? A thing that we see a lot at Indie Tech is people trying to do too much. They're trying to post everything on their website and post everything on social media. And sometimes that just leads to a lot of noise. It makes for a very difficult, it makes it really difficult to track sort of what progress you are making. And it can make for a confusing user journey. So we'll dive into that user journey part right now. But in order to do that, we need to take a little step back and talk about the user. The user is whoever's visiting your site. They can be a range of people, they can be very specific, but that's what we want to find out, right? One method that we like to employ is a user survey. What we do is actually we'll send out surveys to internal stakeholders at the organization, and we'll also create an opportunity to share externally as well among the community. We're not asking specific questions about who your visitors are, but rather what you think they're coming to the site for. Why are they visiting the site? And you can actually ask this question externally too. Giving people the opportunity to maybe guess or try and understand a little bit more, even their peers, and why they would visit your site. Beyond that, we can actually cover some of this through Google Analytics as well. This is more like brass tacks, like demographic details, what web browser they're using, and that sort of thing. So this really gives us a whole picture of who our visitors are and what they're coming to the site for, just a little bit. The external survey, I'll also mention too, is perfect for if you have a subset of very dedicated folks that visit your site a lot. If you have a newsletter, you can include it there from time to time, and board members is another good method of sharing that out. And in addition to knowing who our users are, we need to know where they're coming from and where are they going when they land on your website. Are those people that might have your site bookmarked, or is this their first time? Did they type in some keywords that might be relevant to your organization and they landed there from a search engine? Or did you have a really popular post on social media that might have gotten shared around or boosted, and this is their first time visiting the site? And so that's important to understand too when you want to know where they're coming from, or where they're going to. Are they arriving on the homepage, the landing page, the place that you really want to make sure it sparkles? Or is it another page? Is their first impression of your site some article that you might not be super thoughtful of, but it's getting a lot of traction? So when taking those things in mind, there are some best practices that you can employ to make sure no matter how people get to your site, no matter who they are, they have a good idea of who you are. One thing that we like to do is create calls to action on every page. Calls to action are basically your conversions, the ways that you can get people to take measurable action when they come to your website. As one example here from our lovely friends at the International Wildlife Coexistence Network, their key action is signing up. It's taking this pledge and becoming a member of the site or becoming a member of the organization to learn more and hopefully get involved at a deeper level. So this guy, no matter what page you're on the IWCN website, you'll see this and you'll have this prompt to get further involved. Another opportunity or another option is using light boxes or pop-ups, but not in a separate window, or wiki style banners that usually come up from the bottom. A good example or a good reason to use these would be if you're hosting a short campaign, or if you're hosting something like an event in the next week or so, or something like that, just to drive people to that. One solution for that we really like to use is Opt-in Monster. That gives you a lot of options when it comes to this sort of thing for A/B testing and site or page specific prompts. So if somebody's coming to your site from a sub page and they don't necessarily see the homepage, you don't want this to pop up front and center for them when they don't even know who you are. But maybe on your homepage or after a second visit, that would be an option. And so that really does let you dive deep in terms of what you can do and how you can customize the journey to land people where you want them to. But most importantly, you want to have good navigation. No matter where people are at on your site, you want them to know where they're getting around and know what they're doing. Mega menus are great for some people, like the Obama White House website, but they're not necessarily good for most nonprofit organizations. The menu should definitely be reasonable in length, and it should also be clear. You want to make sure that it doesn't get too ambiguous, so where the people don't know what they're clicking on, which can lead to a really confusing user journey. You want your menus to be clear, to the point, concise, and get the message across that you want. Switching gears here just a little bit, we want to talk about Google Analytics next. Obviously, Google Analytics is a huge topic all on its own. And the joke that I was coming up with here was that we could do a whole webinar on it, and we didn't. So we've actually covered this pretty extensively, but what I want to talk about a little bit more specifically is talking about traffic sources. And specifically tracking where your visitors are coming for, and more concrete methods than we might have done with like the form, which is more conceptual than rather tied to data. For those of you that aren't familiar with analytics, there are various traffic sources that Google Analytics tracks. Direct is if you type the website directly into the browser or click on the link from a non-website source. Organic search is, as you'd expect, arriving at your website from a search engine. Referral is landing on your site from another site. So if you are coming from, a CNN article and you land on that website, that would be tracked as a referral. Paid search, self-explanatory, and social media, which is obviously a big topic that we're talking about today. Reviewing this from time to time is a really good idea because there's always room for improvement here. If you see here, this one has really good direct traffic, which to me would indicate that it's sending out a lot of newsletters that are getting really engaged, and it has a lot of regular visitors that type their website in directly without going through another website. However, if you wanted to maybe improve your organic search a little bit because you see it's a little lacking, if you wanted to take it from 29% to 35%, this is a good measurable way to try and improve that traffic. And you can then maybe shift your focus a little bit to search engine optimization or creating more traffic that might come up in relevant search results. And then social, which, as you know, is a huge traffic driver of itself when you're doing that. So if you're hosting a social media campaign, you can really Google Analytics can really help you figure out how your campaigns are doing. You can drill down further than this big overview of month to month, and you can even drive to day. So if you have a big post that maybe you put money into or boosted, or it's just one that's gotten a lot of engagement on social media, you can dive into here and see how it's doing. This is specifically social media with regards to driving traffic to your site. There are, of course, metrics and analytics within most social media sites to track it, just in terms of like engagement overall. But this is specifically in terms of how your social media is driving traffic to your site. And it's a really good way to keep an eye on your social media campaigns and just make sure that everything is sort of going as expected and you're getting the engagement that you want. All of these things don't exist in a bubble. So I definitely recommend using a combination of them to really drive home your analytics and to use that to inform potential goals and future opportunities. Another thing that we get a lot here that I wanted to take a bit of time to talk about is site-hosted community engagement. That would be something like hosting a forum on your own site, or having some sort of like message board, or even opening up comments on articles. And the thing that I want to do is just make sure that you're being conscious of it, because it is an often requested feature, because of course everybody wants to have a community. Everybody wants to be able to foster this sort of community, but doing it on your site is a big lift. There's a lot to go into it. As soon as you start opening that door, you've got to make sure you have somebody really on top of it, to make sure not only that the traffic or that the engagements aren't salacious or anything nefarious, but that they're relevant to the conversation and they make sense in context. If questionable content is posted on the site, it can, if somebody grabs just the wrong screenshot of something nasty with your logo on the site, that can go bad in a hurry. What our suggestion is to create original content without the option to comment, but sharing it on social media. That way you not only get that engagement within the social media option itself, but you can also drive traffic to your site. You can really help to kind of kill two birds with one stone. In fact, IWCN, the folks I mentioned earlier, they started posting more regular blog posts in the 4 months, in the 4 weeks that they posted 3 blog posts. They had a 20% increase in traffic, almost exclusively from Facebook, compared to the previous 4 months. So it really does make a big difference there. That said, there are also a number of online solutions if you want to be more specific about how you want to, allow your users to interact with one another. Our suggestions there would be Facebook groups. You could manage a Slack and Discord, and even the tried and true Google groups and listservs. They really are also, they're all good solutions, and they're good ways to keep on top of your community engagement without it needing to be another part of your site specifically. That said, within the site, you can still have a member center for like special discounts and communication directly with your members and the people that do want to get more closely involved with the content on the website itself. And of course, there are certainly opportunities and there are solutions for creating like forums and that sort of thing within your site itself, if that's something that you want to do. It's just a really important thing to be thoughtful about. Who's do you have the bandwidth? Does it make sense to you, or are one of the other solutions maybe a little bit better? Yeah, so that's kind of that. I will more than welcome any questions as they're coming in. Otherwise, we will kind of shift to one of the other deeper topics we want to talk about, and that's actually sharing via social media, allowing your users to share directly via social media. What you can do there is not only share your own content, but allow your visitors to share the content too. One thing I want to talk about that in terms of ChangeWire, one of our folks who's actually the site we're working on right now for a redesign. They're a really popular news site. They have a lot of traffic. They have a lot of really actively posted stuff, which again, that active posting really does help to drive their traffic too. They have a lot of social media shares, and they do that in a couple of ways. Not only do they have it front and center at the top of every article, but they also have it as soon as you start scrolling here in this example, it actually pops to the side. So it'll go from like being just on the top to the side, and it'll stick with you. And that's a really good idea, because that is a way that you can allow people to share something whenever they feel like it. You don't want people to have to root around in order to find the social media sharing buttons. And you also want to make sure that that it doesn't just blend in with the background. I see so many times the social media buttons on websites just kind of sit off to the side in like a little sidebar or something. And sometimes they're on pages that people would never want to share. So you definitely want to be conscious about where you're putting your social media icons, but also making them acceptable and present without being overwhelming or repetitive. Another way that we can do that is actually by putting them in the footer. I know a lot of folks do put the footer, their social media icons in the footer. That's where we'd recommend putting them as well. But there are certain solutions that allow you to not only put the links to your social media in the footer, but to put links to the opportunity or the links to share via that icon in the footer as well. So both good options. This is kind of a good use of space, but it's not necessarily as prevalent. So all good options here, but you just want to make sure that you're conscious about where it's going. Another one here is a little bit different. It's actually using calls to action, which we'd mentioned earlier, but this is specifically on a campaign within Amnesty International USA that actually just launched today. Within this campaign, they have a singular goal, and that goal is to get people to sign this pledge. They just want to get people to sign and really get involved that way. What they do is after you sign the initial pledge, they have a set of secondary and even tertiary calls to action. But their first one that they wanted to prioritize was sharing via social media. It's important to them to get this really organic and wide net cast, and it just makes a lot of sense to do it that way. But they also have other opportunities for taking more actions and finding other things as well. Another thing you can do actually with any social media link, but that they're choosing to do here, is customize the content that comes out of your social media posts. So you can actually customize this content here, the part that I believe everyone has the right to so-and-so. And you can make sure that that is specific for, that is sort of tailored to your own content there. So that's the long and short of it. I definitely want to talk a little bit more in depth about some of these things. And I, again, welcome any questions. But in summation, I just want to make it clear that you want to know your audience. You want to understand what they're looking for, might want to explore. You want to make sure that your site is tailored to the experience, regardless of how they might arrive there. Again, thinking about who your audience is, how they're landing on your site is a really important step in the process, even just the thinking about it, in order to taking real action to make sure that your site is as engaging and lead to as much action as possible. You also want to use Google Analytics to monitor the traffic. Again, Google Analytics is such a big lift. It's a lot. There's a lot to it, but it really is such a useful tool, specifically to monitor your website traffic and adjusting your focus towards maybe channels that have been less explored, like the SEO or social media, and to check in on your social media campaigns. We also want to foster community engagement. We want to create original content as frequently as possible. Not only does this make you guys look better, but it helps drive traffic. It helps get more folks to your site. And it's kind of fun. So if you have the leeway to do that, I highly, highly recommend it. You can also share existing content too. If you have a lot of content that's really popular in the past that you think might be relevant for a certain thing, share it, boost it up, and that'll help drive traffic to your site as well. You also want to make sure your social media buttons are easily accessible throughout your visitors' time on the site. You don't want them to be lost in the shuffle. You don't want them to be hard to find. You just want to make sure that where they are placed makes sense. But overall, this is sort of the thing that I want to make sure is the clearest here. All of this is so flexible, and you have so many tools at your disposal to make big changes, small changes, and tweak things as you go along. Things like the A/B testing that I mentioned before is a really good idea to just try things out, see what works, see what doesn't. If you take different tweaks, you'll eventually land on something successful. This is even as basic as changing what your call to action is or tweaking that. You don't necessarily need to do a site redesign every time you want to make some tweaks here, but a redesign is a really good idea. Well, when you do a redesign, it's a really good idea to have all of these tools in mind. So that is the short of it. I know that there are probably questions. I know we have a lot of other topics or another bit that we want to talk about here. So I do just want to take a pause for questions while we're on this slide and see if anybody has anything specific that they'd like to ask about. And if we want to go over anything else in a little bit more detail before I hand it over to Wasim to talk about the social media sharing tools.
All right, thank you so much, Seth. We got a question. Says we are doing educational forum fairly regularly. I would love to host them on our website. Are you saying we can do that?
That's a great question. I definitely think that you could. It depends on what. I think that you could definitely host them on your website. You would probably want to have a third-party platform that you're using, of course, to get the technical pieces embedded. But for specific events, I actually think that that would be a really good idea to host on your website. As opposed to the general forums that might just be open and all the time. If you have a specific event where you can have sort of all hands on deck and they're going to be people that are choosing to be involved, I think that you can absolutely monitor that a little bit better and get that involved with your site and with your larger presence than if it were just to be hosted on some third party forum platform. So yeah, that's actually a great use case for having it on your site. Definitely.
Great. I forgot to mention this is from our very good friend Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. So, all right. We can always get questions. I just want to take over a little bit, and I want to talk about implementation of some of these tools that Seth was talking about. So from a social media and website, there are like three different ways. So there is one way is like from sharing from your websites to social media channels. Okay. Assuming most of the nonprofits on this call are using WordPress, and I'm going to use that's like the plugins, but this could or should work for Drupal as well, or any other thing. So to do that, to kind of like, and I will go through over like some tools. So one way is from the website, share content to your social media channels or to other people social media channels. The second way is sharing content from the social media, let's say from your Facebook feed or Twitter to your website. And I have something to say about that. And then the third part I want to do that's kind of like the social media connection with the website is what we call the on-site SEO, which is basically what tools you could use to make your pages SEO friendly. So Google, Bing, or whatever search engine can understand them and index them the right way. All right, with that being said, I'm just gonna share a couple tools. We have no affiliation with any of those tools, so it's just over the years we use them, we trust them or recommend them, and stuff like that. Let me share my screen if I know how to, even though after working with Zoom for 5 years now, I don't know, feels like longer than that. Let me share my screen, and I'm gonna do the first one. Okay, so I'm going to share the first example, and all of these are like live sites, and you can see a lot of this in a lot of other websites. These like some of the websites we manage. One of the ways, like the two-way traffic between social media and your website I mentioned, is if you are on any page on your website, you want to give your visitors access to share that page, that content, that resource with no more than one click. That's like should be kind of like standard on all of your page. So for instance, this is for Amnesty International. This is a press release of a source. You can see nice about death penalty, but like at the top of the top of the page where like the content is, you have like they are big on Facebook and Twitter. So you can click on share and it's sticky, so it stays with you. I like this approach. There are different approaches for this from a user experience. Either you put them at the top and then at the bottom of the article, or you do something like this, which is sticky on the left. This very specific one is custom made, meaning like there is no plugin. Like we work on this like for Amnesty. So it's great. You are anywhere on the page. Okay, this is great. I love this. I want to share it on my network. Once you share it, it should pull, if it's developed right, the image of the image of the article, and then like a link for it, so you can share it as a news feed or something. The same thing for Twitter. And these, as Seth mentioned earlier, these are all of the text here and images are 100% customizable, so you can customize that in advance. For any social media. One good thing about doing this for all of your page, you do it once, you implement once, and automatically it will pull the data from that. So from any page I go on this website, you will have this tool and you can do it. So that's one. This is custom made. Another tool I want to use here, this is more for it's for WordPress, is this plugin that Seth mentioned earlier. It gives you like these share on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, but you can add other social media here, like as Instagram and stuff. One extra thing this tool, this plugin provide is the number of shares. So like tells you like it's good and bad. Like it's like double-sided edge. Like if you're not sharing much, then it's not going to be like the number is not going to make sense. But one thing I like about this, the numbers I like about the design of it, we could customize it, but we're working on a whole redesign websites. I'm not like, these are like too bold for me. So from a user experience, I don't love them. But one thing I like is switches, and that's very good. Like it switches from the top to the left, so you can always share on the social media. The name of this very specific one is called, and I'm gonna add all of these on the chat, and I'm gonna send them on the follow-up email. This one is called the social warfare. Um, there's like the free version and there's the paid version. The free version, you can do a lot of things. The paid version, they give you like extra stuff. um we like this, you know. It's not like we don't love it that much because it's a little bit, doesn't provide everything we need, but it's good. It's good enough if you have nothing on your website, like, to do it. So that'll give you like a quick tool to share social media from your website to uh, to um, to all of the social media. And why this is important, once again, is just like to, you know, the like brand awareness and sharing the message. Like if you have an article, you want people to go and, you know, more people. And Facebook is a great place for it, so such as Twitter. So that's one way, from your website to from your website to social media channels. Then the second way I was talking about is from social media. Like, let's say you want to put all of the feeds from your social media to inside your website. I personally not a big fan of doing that. I've seen it like on a lot of websites where like you have like all of like the Facebook feed, and the idea, I understand the idea is like, oh, but our Facebook page is active and there is a lot of articles there, so we want to show the feed on our website. The challenge with that is most of the time it's not user friendly and it's just too much info. It's not organized the right way. So it ends up not really doing what you want it to do, which is like making sure your website is active and it's up to date.
Can I just
But
jump in and add
yeah,
one point to that?
yeah,
It's also the fact that if people want to see your Twitter feed or your Instagram, they're going to go to your Twitter or Instagram. People aren't going to be
correct.
landing on your website to see your Twitter feed. So some people think of it as like a shortcut to making sure they're making it seem like their site is really active, active and engaged, but it ends up just like not making a whole lot of sense there and isn't utilized the way that people expect.
I agree 100%. But there is one tool that I've seen on some pages and we implemented before that I think it works if it's implemented right. It's called Flow. That's what it's called. It's this one. It's Flow from Social Streams. They do have, and I will share this as well, they do have like a demo that you can see like how they are pulling from you can pull literally from all of your social media channels and put them on your website. What I would recommend is don't do it on the homepage, but if you have, and I'll show you an example like use case. This is for Amnesty. So they are pulling from Twitter and their YouTube channel in a totally different, it's called Amnesty News, like a different landing page. But the way how this flow, like they are presenting the data is user friendly. You'll like it. You will have an idea. Do we have traffic here? Yes, we do get some traffic. It's not like, as Seth mentioned, when people want to go to your social media, they go to your social media. But I think this is a better way of pulling data from your social media channels to your website. And as I said here, like we have Twitter and it does pull it automatically for you. So every time you post something, you do it. One feature I like about this, we don't do it with this project, which is you can pull by a tag. So let's say you are running a campaign about end gun violence, for instance. Okay, so if you can use this tool to pull all of the social media from Twitter, Facebook, that with the tag end gun violence, and it will be listed on a page. Once again, I don't recommend doing it on homepage because people don't go to your homepage to learn about your social media channels. So, but if it's like the news or latest, something like that, I recommend this tool. It's not free, but it's pretty good. I think the free version doesn't have. I think they give you only one social media channel.
And if you are pulling in for campaigns and such, that's another part where you quickly open up that moderation bit, where if you're pulling in any public post that might be hashtagged or something with one of your tags, you're going to have to stay on top of it. So again, not something that we necessarily recommend let sit out on your website at any point in time. But if you're running a specific campaign, or like if you're at we've even seen it at like live events where people have like social media feeds where they're posting updates about the event. That's fine and that's great and something that you can definitely get embedded in your website.
Absolutely. And they do have, I like this, they have like a demo on the flow. They have like a demo on their website when they have like different layouts that you can look at. So the masonry is the one I like personally, but there's like a lot of other stuff you can play with. And I will share this with you all as well. They also have like Instagram feed gallery, which is great. Yeah, this one of the very few that I like and I would recommend. But once again, if it's implemented right. But otherwise, I'm not a big fan personally. Not a big fan of like just posting all of your Facebook feeds on your website. So that's from your social media to your website. The last one is, and I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about, is the on-site SEO. SEO is a lot of things, but the more you do is better. So you are listed on mostly like on Google and other search network. Is how would I know that my page or website will be listed organically on Google? So there is like a lot of components, but one you could do is focus on content, because most of the people on this call like communication managers or like staff. So content is like the key. Content is king. So the more unique content is definitely organically you will be listed more. But there are like few things or tools that will help you with that. So one of them, if you that we use mostly with all of our websites, is it's called Yoast. So Yoast is kind of like, it's a plugin for you can do it with WordPress or you can do it without WordPress, standalone website, but it helps you tell a little bit about like how your pages are, how social or like search networks looking at your website from an SEO perspective. So I will show you an example. Give me 1 second to say like how the Yoast will help you, even though without like a lot of knowledge, just kind of like guide you toward development and having an SEO friendly pages or websites. Let's do, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull it right now. Yeah, there is a free version and the paid version, just like a lot of other plugins, but the free version, you can do a lot with it. So almost there. Let's open. There is another tool that we use, but we use Yoast a lot, but there is another one we use that's more like, I don't think they have free version. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull it here. So this is, I just pulled a post for one of the clients, and as you can see, so there is like all of the content for this is WordPress backend. There's like the content for the post, and here, this is the Yoast SEO that helps you a little bit like guide the structure of the page, so it's more like SEO friendly. So for one thing, they first thing is like the mobile, like they show like how it looks on mobile and desktop, which is great, but also it helps you like, like which slug you want to use and meta description, and it tells you like some stuff like when you do the analysis, it will like, hey, there is no internal links, like some problems that you can easily fix with content, because we fix that will definitely improve like the SEO for that very specific page. Once again, these are just like tools to help you with, just making the website or the page looks indexed by any search engine. It's a lot of work. In a sense, it's a continued work. You don't like, this is like SEO, like, or web presence in general. It's not like something you do once and you forget. There are a lot of tools that you can use to help you with that, but it's a continued process. Like you have to do it. You have to keep doing it, keep maintaining it. Tools like this will help. And yeah, I think that's all I have. I will give it back to, I'm gonna stop sharing first. Also, there is like a lot, millions of tools. We try, especially like with WordPress and plugins, there's like millions, but our philosophy is like we tested any plugin before putting it out or like deploying to clients, because it's just like a lot of security concerns sometimes, and if it's not updated, that kind of stuff. So All right, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions. We've tried tons of plugins over the years, so I'll be more than happy to answer. Yes, I will send all of the resources I mentioned, Catherine. Yes, there's a question. Yeah, on a follow-up email, we will. I will share all of those. Yes.
And we'll include the slides themselves as well, as any of those things.
And generously, yes, Seth is like generous today, and he wants to share the slides. So that's great. Okay.
Awesome.
Seth, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. Oh, real quick for you, Wasim, was that the free version of Yoast?
Yes, the one. Yes, that was the free version that was shown. Yeah, you can do a lot with the free version of Yoast. Yes.
Cool. And I assume that there's a paid version that
there is, yeah, they give you like extra stuff, but the free version is good enough, especially if you have nothing. It's good enough like to guide the you structure the pages. Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, a lot of the technical stuff is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I'm glad that you know, we have a great team over here that can really help to. We want to conceptualize this stuff, and then we want to allow people to use the technology to make it happen. So that's great. I think we will open it up to questions now. We have a few so far. Please feel free to answer anything in the chat. I know we have some, or ask anything in the Q&A. I know we have some time left. If you want to use the raise your hand feature, and we can unmute you and go that way too. So just let us know. I know that we covered a lot in a very short amount of time. So we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to get all their questions answered. One of the first questions we got was the question about using WordPress, or specifically in this case, it was Wix. We, full disclosure, are a WordPress shop. We work exclusively in the WordPress world. And this specific question had a sort of qualifier of hearing that Wix is more user-friendly. At the end of the day, the website is as user-friendly as the people that create the website set it up to be. For us, it's really important that users have all the autonomy that they can to make their own updates to the site. But you also, at the same time, from like our perspective, we don't want to allow people too much so that they might install plugins that they're not necessarily equipped to install, and then it ends up breaking things. So it is a delicate balance there, but I think WordPress is really good at managing that. I think that it gives you the opportunity to open it up as much as you want, while still making sure that that everything's sort of under control on the back end, security wise and plugin wise and all that stuff in between.
Yeah, and I can chime in very quickly because I had this questions and I answered like over the years. So WordPress, Wix, or anything like Wix. So one of the main differences is Wix is a little bit limited. So you will be limited to what you can and cannot do. Unlimited is relative, right? So it depends what's the goal of your website, and what basically the question that's for all of this webinar is like, why do we need a website? It's a very simple question, but it's very like broad. So if the website, like for the, I would say for organization or the campaign you're running or something, is like very simple, I have no problem with Wix. There might be like other things like SEO. I know they promise like SEO and analytics and that kind of stuff, but I know it's not comprehensive. And if you want to do something pretty serious, it's limited. WordPress, on the other hand, is a proper CMS, meaning like it's meant and built to do them, and it's been around for a long time, and it's updated like on a daily basis. So it's like other CMS right there. We chose, and this is like what we do WordPress. We don't do Wix, but I have it's case by case, and I can see the need for Wix for some websites. Then the next question, which is I really, really like, and I will say a little bit about it, but maybe Seth will say more, is using Medium in your strategy. Medium as your blogging platform. So WordPress, by its core, it's a blogging system as well. And so now we have this dilemma over like last couple of years. Do we want to use WordPress for our blogging, or should we use Medium? To be honest, like it's 50-50 right now, like the recommendations we give. Medium is like the upcoming uprising blogging system, and I believe it's going to be that for the next few years. It's going to be number one like very soon. So, and it's I like their ecosystem they are using. It's really it works perfect for blogging. So for there's maybe very specific or like use cases where I would not recommend Medium or recommend WordPress as a blogging system. If you want to like more control over what you do, who's doing what, that kind of stuff, I will like do. But if it's like a public blog, which is most of the blogs are, I think Medium is fine. And by the like for me, either way is fine. Yeah, I don't know I know Seth, we've been working with this for I don't know for a while now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And Medium is really one of the toughest ones. So at the end of the day, you just need to think about what the best strategy is for you, because you can do anything with it. I think especially for new organizations, I'm a little bit more hesitant to suggest starting off with a Medium platform because you don't have that already established Medium presence. And so then that really helps if you don't try and do that and you all do all that through WordPress. That really helps to, like, narrow down that user journey, get and keep people on your site. And I think it probably at the end of the day helps with conversions a little bit better than if it were to be hosted on Medium. Now, that said, if your end goal is to get people to read your articles and you don't necessarily have a follow-up, then it makes sense. And if you want to, establish yourself in another way via Medium, then that's a good use case for going with Medium for sure.
I would say one last thing about like Medium and blog. If you do so, always like plan that your website is kind of like the main focus. So it's okay to have blog entries on your Medium, but references to your website, like pages or actions, I would always recommend that. So people like welcome to the website to do whatever you want them to do. Take action, make donation, join a list, that kind of stuff. Just like that connection, you need to maintain that connection between Medium and your website.
So kind of as a follow-up to that, another question that we got was asking a little bit more specifically about calls to action. I think most, if not all, organizations do have a call to action, so it makes sense to talk about it a little bit more. The question was, how do we know what our call to action is? And that's a really big one, but it really is kind of foundational to your organization overall. You want to make sure that your call to action is ideally measurable. It doesn't necessarily need to be. If you just want people to come to your website for information gathering, then that's great. But usually a call to action would be like, get people to sign up, get people to donate, get people to click somewhere else on your site. And those are all good options. The way that we generally recommend implementing them is deliberately and specifically. You want to make sure that people know what your call to action is, where they can find it, and how and what it is. So a good example is a donate button, right? Most places have a donate button. That donate button should probably be in your header. It should probably be in your footer, and you should probably have or think about having a color scheme or a design element color-wise that is specific for your call to action. So that way, when people see that color, they know, oh, this is this thing that I click on. You can, of course, have more than one, as we saw with the Amnesty Pledge option. You can have secondary, tertiary options for what you ideally want people to do, but you just need to be careful and make sure that you know what order that those are in, like so it's clear to people what's priority and even which they're more likely to click on depending on where it is on the site. And you want to keep in mind too that if you have more than one, that's going to probably take people away from both. I think if you have like one donate button that, let's say, has 100 conversions, if you have a donate and a sign up for the newsletter, then I would say that it's not going to be 50-50. You might have 45 and 46, just because when people have to make that choice, it just adds another barrier to their action overall. Of course, there are exceptions, and those are our favorite people that not only want to sign up for the newsletter, but they want to donate, they want to get involved however they can. Those guys are awesome, and we want to make it great and easy for them too. But for people that might be new to the site that you're trying to, nudge in a certain direction, you want to make sure that that it's clear to them what you want to do.
Okay, thank you, Seth. We're getting like other questions, but I just want to ask a favor for everyone who's still in the call. One quick survey, 2 questions. We are already like preparing for next webinar, and we have like 3 subject matter, but we want to kind of like just a poll, like which ones you guys would like to see for May edition. So I sent you a link on the chat screen. So we have 3 subjects we want to discuss. We want to do conversion and analytics, or creating and managing campaign on your website using opt-in monster, and we mentioned that earlier. Or the third one we are thinking about is creating and managing a tagging system for your content. That will be like helpful too, so we can prioritize which one we want to do next. Still questions, no more. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the time we have left. If you have any questions that you just want to like raise your hands, we can unmute you and you can ask away. That was another good thing that we sort of touched on a bit ago, was the idea of campaigns. We have a lot of folks that do actually set up microsites. And this is a little bit off topic from the website and social media thing, but it's really important to think about those events. And, there's tons of platforms out there that can very easily integrate into your website. But if it's easier to spin up, a Wix, a Squarespace, you can certainly do that too. So just wanted to make sure that it's clear that like, not only do you want your website itself to be, your main presence online, but there are ways that you can have these sort of like microsites or campaign pages that still make it clear that they're, part of your entity, and they can still drive traffic to your site and increase your engagement. Right. I think that's about all we have for today. If you're interested in following up with any of the above, please reach out to us. My email is seth@indietechsolutions.com. Here, put it in the chat. And Wasim is wasim@indietechsolutions.com, or you have both. First and last name.
Yeah, I will send the email. I will send my email as well, but I will follow up with the PowerPoint presentation and all of the resources we mentioned.
Yeah.
And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions related to
that.
I
mean, I know we both do, but I love to talk about this stuff. I think it's really interesting, and there's so many opportunities here for organizations to learn and grow. So even if you just have a little question, or if you don't necessarily have the budget for a full redesign right now, please reach out to us still. We'd love to talk to you more about opportunities and ways that you can still make really big improvements on your site with really little changes. But of course, if you do want to undergo a whole redesign, we can absolutely help you work through that process and get you set up with something cool. So yeah, without further ado, thank you all very much. And
thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.